Good morning, AO Southwest. My name is Paul Vassallo, your Director of Leadership Development, and we are here with Kingsley Ibeh today, and we're going to get into Kingsley's story. It's an amazing story at that, talking about him coming over from Nigeria, playing football, owning businesses, and coming ultimately to the success that he's had or currently having right now in the business. But most importantly, we want to start with a big shout out to all of you for going out there and having the best week that this agency's ever had, breaking the all-time record by almost 70,000 in production, uploading almost 500,000 in 1 week in production. So we tip our hats to you. Congratulations on the fight that you showed last week, going out there and just doing something absolutely incredible. So that we want to make sure we started off with that. As we always do on Tuesdays, we have the hashtag Takeaway Tuesday, hashtag nextgenleadership. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what your biggest takeaway is from the podcast, from learning about Kingsley's story and everything that we're going to go through today. So make sure you get onto your Instagram story, tag him, tag AIO World. Make sure that we can see it so we can pick the best winner from this week's takeaway to give them what their prize will be, and we'll discuss that next week. So, but without wasting any more of Kingsley's time and our time, we want to make sure we can spend the majority of our time today talking about him and his story, because it's an incredible one. So get your pens and paper ready, because you're going to learn a lot from this man here today and the success that he's having. So Kingsley, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely. And so we want to just get to know you a little bit more, because obviously you're in the Tempe office and you've been with AIO for about 7 months or so at this point. But we've got Dallas and Illinois and New Mexico, El Paso, Tucson, and then the Phoenix office, which people may not even know you and your story yet really either. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. You were born in Nigeria, correct?
Yes.
And so tell us about your story from Nigeria, how you ended up here in Phoenix, Arizona, sitting in the Vita Camp's residence.
I was born and raised in Nigeria. Moved out here. Actually, I came out here on a visiting trip with my family, my mom and my younger brother. Then I just graduated high school. I came out here and decided to go to school here.
Okay.
So that changed. I was going to school here, started at Australia Mountain Community College. I was going for chemical engineering. Then I transferred to Glendale Community College to finish my prereqs for my engineering. Stumbled upon football on accident, decided to, pursue that goal.
Okay.
Played at Glendale Community College for 2 years, went to Kansas, played at Washburn University. Mm-hmm. Played there for a year. Came out my junior year. Got a shot with the Cardinals.
Okay.
I was there through camp. Got released. Went to Seattle. Mm-hmm. And then went to Canada.
Okay.
So I played in Canada. Played there. Got hurt and got released after that. Mm-hmm. And after Canada, came out there and I started focusing on my business. At that point, I was, buying and selling cars. Decided, maybe take that up a little notch into renting them out. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, which is why.
Yeah.
And then afterward, I found AIO.
Okay. So what year did you take the trip with your mom and your brother to America?
In 2009.
2009. Okay. So 10 years ago now, and 2009. And then did you go back home, or did you just stay put and started going to school? How did that work?
I haven't been back home, which I've always wanted to. Every year I decide I'm going to go home. And then at December time, which is now when I normally plan on going back, something just always ends up keeping me here.
Okay.
But by God's grace, this year I will be going home.
Amen. Good. Okay. Well, that's a good goal to have. So something to work forward to. But so you stumbled upon football. Elaborate how you stumbled upon football and ended up, getting a shot in the pros. How do you stumble upon that?
I was just, calculating, again, going to school and then being from Nigeria, you pretty much have to pay for your tuition.
Okay.
So I knew I was at the end of my prerequisite from Glendale, but then I knew I afford, or at the time my parents couldn't afford the $15,000 or $20,000 for a university, which is ASU. So I decided, you know what, maybe if I go try out for soccer, I'm really good at soccer, I can get a scholarship to ASU to finish my education. And then when I looked up football tryout, it sent me Glendale Community College. I'm like, oh, great, I need to go to that school anyways for my prereqs to finish. Yeah. So I looked at the tryout dates, and then I showed up, brought my cleats, and it wasn't soccer.
It wasn't football.
It wasn't what I thought it was.
Oh, that's funny.
And
so literally you stumbled upon football.
Yeah, I stumbled upon them practicing.
Okay.
I had a bet with a friend of mine who was in the stands. You know, the bet was like, oh, if I make it to the team, I think it was $50 then, he was going to give me $50. So he drove me there. He was in the stands and just laughing. So the reason why I continued with the tryout was I had a bet going on with him. Okay. So I went out there, and you know, people were getting in their stands. They're like, "What are you doing?" I don't even know where to go. The coach asked me, you know, what position do I play? And I'm like, with those guys, and they were like receivers. I saw them catching the ball, throwing it, and he asked me I should get in a 3-point stance. I had no idea what that was. Yeah. So I like just saw the guys next to me like squatting down. So I like bent down a little bit, and he's like, okay, obviously you don't even know what you're doing. Yeah. He's like, just finish the tryout. So after the 40, I think then I ran a 4.9. Okay. And he was like, okay, you're big, you're fast, you know, if you want to learn this game, like I'm willing to teach you. Yeah. And at that point in time, all I was already going to school there, so it was just easy to come to practice every day. Okay.
And so obviously it worked out. You started to play and play well. And you went to the University of Washburn in Kansas, correct?
Yes.
And so you went out there to study chemical engineering?
Yes. Chemical engineering has always been the goal for, you know, it's been something I wanted to do. Just growing up, it was like what I had in mind. I went out there for chemical engineering, but, you know, I had to decide between chemical engineering and football just because all the classes and the chemistry labs were all doing practice time. So
a lot of people don't understand that you can't be certain majors and be an athlete. And so that's where, okay, so you ran into that.
Yeah, the hard way, because I try to manage both, and it's just, I was slacking in both. You know, I wasn't doing well in classes, chemistry classes, and I was missing practice. Yeah. And so I had to decide, you know, I can always finish school, but you know, the window for football is just very short. So.
Absolutely. You can always go back and finish. Yep, absolutely. So you got your shot in the NFL. You played in Canada as well, but you were kind of in business for yourself all the while, right? So where did that entrepreneurial spirit kind of stem from? Because were you in business for yourself in school, or were you just focused on school and ball?
Even when I was in school, I was in business for myself. Okay. Was buying it. It was, you know, a way to come up with extra money. And when
we didn't have a lot of it then.
Yeah. Yep. When I was in school, the way to come up with extra money was able to buy cars, fix them, you know, a little handy. So fix them sometimes myself and sell them. And that way make more money with, you know, less time to put into
a job or something like that. Okay. So now at what point did you kind of have that conversation with yourself? Like, okay, not that football may be done because you were still trying out and still waiting for that call, right? But when did you decide to scale your business to the next level and say, okay, I'm going to stop making this a part-time thing. I'm going to go into this. When did you have that conversation?
That was after I got released from Canada with the Stampeders. Okay. I decided at this point, you know, I've always known I don't want to work 40 hours a week. Yeah. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was already in the car business, so I decided why not just focus on this a little more.
Absolutely.
Instead of, you know, just buying and selling, you can always rent and open the door a little more.
Yeah. So that was when? Time frame?
That was in May of 2018.
Okay, so a year ago is when you decided to really ramp up in business for yourself. And so talk to us how you got to American Income. So May of 2018, And then you first had the conversation with David in like September, you said, or so?
Yeah, September. So May, I was, doing my business, had a lot of free time. I was also working at a gym, Fitness One gym.
Okay.
I was managing that gym as well. Then I met a friend who was telling me about a business opportunity whereby I think her word then was whereby you can make $1,500 a week. And putting the math together, I'm like, okay, my business is good, but this sounds even way better.
Yeah.
And then it was too good to be true. So I decided if it was that good, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
And she was just in the process of getting her license. So thanks to her, she got me an interview with David.
Okay.
And when I sat with David, it pretty much went from being able to make this to even double that.
Yeah.
So the excitement was a lot more higher.
Yeah.
And I said, why not if not?
And that was September timeframe, correct?
So that was September. I interviewed with David. Didn't pass my test. Actually failed it 3 different times.
Okay.
And the last try, I passed it just by 70. I got exactly 70 in the
perfect score. Yeah. So now you're licensed October. Did you come out of the gates fine? Were you writing 10,000 a week the first week, or was this kind of a learning process for you?
It was a little learning process. At first, I was, testing the waters. I said, okay, these numbers are just ridiculously too good. Let me even see if it's good. So my first week, I think I, had a good week because I, had some people while I was taking my test, I was still telling people, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to use you to practice when I finish.
Okay.
So I had a good week because they already prepped when I went there. They saw how good our product was, and it's nothing like that out there. And they all wanted it. So
you had success your first couple of weeks? Okay. How'd it go? How much did you write?
My first week, I made $3,500.
Okay. So what was that more than you were expecting to make?
Yes.
Okay.
I was expecting to start out making 900, 1,000, maybe 1,500, like the interview said.
Correct.
But then it was a no-brainer.
Okay. So first week, $3,500. Now where's your head at?
Now my head is, we're going to 100 million.
Okay. Good. So after your first week, you kind of saw, wow, I can do this, right? But did you have sales experience? Obviously, you said you were buying and selling cars, but did you have direct sales experience to a consumer?
Except for, the cars, not much. I did interview or work with this direct marketing company, but I didn't even finish that because they weren't people first. It was all profit, and they were pretty much trying to use people, and it's just never been what I was into.
Good. How much of your early success, Kingsley, because now you're at a point to where you're writing pretty much anywhere from about 6,000 to 8,000 a week, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
I know some weeks about 10,000 and stuff, right? But consistently, we can pretty much count on Kingsley to write 6,000 to 8,000 a week. So how much of your success, because you're still a baby in the business, right? 7 months or so, and you're having a tremendous amount of success. How much of that would you attribute to being coachable? And because obviously one of the challenges I think that successful people have in life is when you start something new, you can bring an ego with, right?
Yes.
So sometimes people with the ego problem, they're not very coachable, or no, I know what to do. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you for your advice, but like I got this, right? Mm-hmm. But how much of your early success in this first 7 months would you attribute to being coachable, but then also leaning on your mentors and being like, hey, I don't have it figured out. Can you help me with this? How much of your early success would you attribute to those things?
I'll say pretty much all of it.
Okay.
Everything I learned was even from the training.
Yeah.
I drove out, I think it was 12 hours just to go train with Christy. And
she's a stud,
yeah,
right?
I was just willing to learn. Went out there, absorbed everything I could from her, especially with David. It comes down to, listening and discipline. My dad told me something growing up at a very young age. He's like, if somebody has something you want, if you do exactly what they tell you to do and how they're doing it, more than likely you're going to achieve the same thing that they have. So listening, just absorbing everything they have to say. It's pretty much what I've learned so far.
Well, and you could argue that you should just keep listening, right? Because the success you're having speaks for itself. But when did you start hiring? Because you walk into the office and all these big boys are around Kingsley. So you've hired some of the NFL players and former college football players. So you guys make your presence known, of course. But when did you start hiring? Because when you start making $3,500 a month, or excuse me, a week, just by yourself writing business, some people would be like, man, that's more money than I've ever made. That's $14,000 a month. Like that puts me in the top 2% in the country. Why would you start hiring? At what point did you kind of have that aha moment? Like, well, if I can do it, maybe I should teach other people to do it as well.
It's pretty much, being people first, our motto. It's after I realized how, at first, like I said, I was testing the waters.
Yeah.
I didn't even tell people what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I've, done different things before. They always tell you, okay, it's stupid, get a job, work a normal job, get how much you make in an hour. It's pretty much what are you working now, how much you make an hour. And that's pretty much what they judge you by.
Yeah.
But when I first tried it my first month, I didn't even tell anybody. Nobody knew what I was doing until when I realized, okay, this is actually really good and there are people first. So I decided, I have a lot of friends or people that I know that been in the same places and definitely want more for themselves. And all I had to do was give them the same opportunity David gave me.
Yeah. And at what point was that? When did you start to hire and focus on building an agency versus just yourself?
So that was pretty much in January.
Okay, so the 2019?
Yes.
So how much did you make your first couple of months? Did you end up making more money than you expected?
Yeah, of course. I made more than I was expecting. I was expecting to make like at least $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
That was enough to, keep me going. And I was doing this part-time.
Yeah.
I wasn't putting all my energy into it.
Yeah.
I was still focusing on my own business and doing this at the same time. But then I realized like this was even paying me more than my other business. So why not pull all my energy into this?
Absolutely. And Dustin Vinnicamp had made it sounds like you guys had a conversation, right, about just being focused and what a focused mind can do. And so talk to, the people about really just how things changed for you when you really decided to focus and give 100% of your energy towards one thing, because it's really easy. I think so many, you jump on social medias nowadays and they say the average millionaire has 7 sources of income and all of these things, right? But they don't understand that Bill Gates started investing in other businesses 10, 15 years down the road. Day one, he didn't take a break from Microsoft for 7 straight years, right? So they get lost because they're like, oh, well, this person has this and this and this, but they earned their money in one thing first. So if you can, tell the audience about, for you, what did you learn about being, okay, well, I had my side business. I was kind of doing this part-time, but how did things change for you when you really focused on AIL and took your energy and efforts and put it in here?
I pretty much changed when I came here and sat with Dustin. He kind of I would say debugged me.
Yeah.
Because, I was thinking, okay, I have this going on, I have that going on. I was thinking, I'm actually doing good.
Yeah.
Actually, I was struggling because I was dividing myself in multiple ways and producing less.
Yeah.
So after I sat with him, he said, what's the worst thing I could do if you focused in this and give it 2 years? And I decided, you know what? Why not? It's already doing more than I expected to do. So if I decide to focus a little more into this and put all my energy into it, and it's pretty much been life-changing so far. After I sat with him, he pretty much told me things to cut off. He pretty much made it straightforward. I was my biggest obstacle.
Okay.
I was my biggest distraction. I had to cut out all the distractions. There's never a balance. You never be able to manage everything. You just have to focus on your goals, and every little thing else will fall in place.
You said something very powerful. You said you were your biggest obstacle. What did that look like for Kingsley? Because a lot of times it's a little bit different for everybody, right? Because we have single parents, we have spouses, and that are our parents as well, right? So everybody has different demands for their life, but what did that look like for you? What was your biggest obstacle of getting around yourself? What did that look like for you?
I was pretty much, taking myself out of the situation.
Okay.
Deciding, okay, this is bigger than me. This, again, even though when you set goals, this is what you want, so it's what I want to achieve. I just had to stop being selfish because I was trying to save up and do two different things and like dip my hands in two different baskets. And that's the way I was thinking about it. I decided I'm actually going to focus on me, set these goals, write them down and pursue those.
Okay. So were you not writing your goals down before?
I wasn't writing them down. I just had a plan in my head, of what I wanted to do and kind of slowly work my way around that.
Okay. And what have you noticed about the clarity that comes from writing your goals down and then having that target to go after?
The most important thing that writing your goals down actually did for me was just keeping me more focused. So when I wrote them down, even when I was, even when I'm struggling with, get frustrated or something, I write those goals down, I see them, I review them. It reminds me of, okay, why I'm actually doing this and where I'm trying to get to.
Absolutely.
And it just keeps me more disciplined and structured.
Absolutely. So that's a great piece of advice. Write your goals down, because I think it's fair to say that we will all encounter times of frustration or challenges or whatever the case is. And that, would you agree that before you started writing your goals down that you could kind of lose sight of the target?
Yes, definitely. You actually will. If you don't write them down, I mean, we're not a computer.
Right.
What you don't write down, you tend to forget. Yeah. And then when things get difficult, you just find a shortcut out of it. Yeah. So for example, even with my own business, I just knew, okay, this is what I needed to do, what I had to do, but I didn't write it down. So even when I go do those steps, I don't actually do the main things that I need to do.
Correct.
But with this, when I started writing my goals down, pretty much everything changed because I had a constant reminder of Dustin's word and my agreement to where I'm going and what I needed to do and get done.
It's amazing how clarity can just bring so much focus to your situation. So talk to us though about growing up in Nigeria, because you've got an incredible story. And so obviously we heard the high level stuff, right? Of you came over here on a trip and you haven't been back since. So obviously I guess you could say you liked Arizona. But with that being said, you grew up in Nigeria. You have 5 siblings, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you started boarding school at 11. And so, when we were talking about this prior to, you mentioned that you've kind of had to grow up since 11 years old, and you've been at boarding school. You're only home for a couple of months, like a year, right? Yes. So, tell everybody, because boarding school's foreign to Americans. So you're going to have to, we understand the concept, right? But it's not very common. So talk to us about what growing up in Nigeria was like, and what boarding school and kind of your upbringing and what that looked like.
Growing up in Nigeria was definitely, it was a blessing, but it's completely different. The main difference for me was the culture. Growing up in Nigeria, it's all about everybody. It's, I'd say, all for one.
Okay. And
one for all. The major differences we had there was the tribalism.
Yeah.
On which was really huge, just because everywhere you went, people either judge you off of the language you spoke, which now thinking about it being here is like, just because I speak French or makes me completely different.
Yeah.
Boarding school is really huge, and that's pretty much where I learned everything growing up as a man.
Okay.
At the age of 11, I was sent out there. I cried for my first week, the whole week, just because you pretty much are on your own, and you're pretty much there with a bunch of people from your age range all the way to 18, 19, and you just have to learn how to figure things out on your own. So even when you're stuck and there's no mommy or daddy to help you, pretty much have to ask other people or learn from them or see what you need to do to be right.
So how often would you see were you at the same boarding school with your siblings, or?
No, I was the boarding school once with my brother, but he graduated after that year. So
you have
after
1 year.
My first year, he graduated and left, which kind of, I was already used to it, but kind of changed things for me, having that person there to, even though we were in the same boarding school, but we never really did anything together. My schedules were completely different from his. So even though he was my brother in the same school, I'll hardly, see him except for nighttime or, within that 2 hours window that we had.
Correct.
But then I had my younger brother when I was in boarding school, who came on board.
After a couple of years when you were there?
Yeah, so he came in, he was like 3 classes behind me. So I had a good year and 2 with him before I left.
Very good. So how often would you see your family? Is it holidays or what would that look like?
Pretty much like the school system here, so pretty much doing breaks. So when you have that 2-3 months break, which is all the time, you pretty much have to see your parents, so your family, and then you go right back to school. Yeah. And my school was like a good 2 hours away from home. Mm-hmm. So, and normally once, I think every first Sunday of the month is visitations where your parents get to come see you, bring you some more foodstuffs, and give you a little extra cash. So, but yeah, so I got to see them once every month. Okay. And then only during breaks. Okay, so I can't imagine at 11 years old, not seeing your family every single day, right? I mean, it's such a foreign concept to us here because, mom dropped me off at school every single day, right? And picked me up every single day. And so, right, yeah, and so it's just, but would you, I think I know the answer to this, but would you say that it helped shape you early into the successes that you have now? Because you've had to learn how to grow up independently. You've had to learn to ask for help from other people, right? Because you mentioned something earlier that you had like a parent or a big brother or sister, or what was it at school? Yeah, so in boarding school, you always have a school parent. Okay. So it's a school parent is pretty much like a mentor in school. So someone who's definitely above you. They're probably in their last 2 years of high school then. And, you look up to them. They help guide you when you're stuck or you can't figure something out, or, you just pretty much having a hard moment. Like sometimes it's just being homesick. Yeah. I was homesick for a long time, and, having a school parent that I could go to and that would help me, okay, don't worry about this, is what you need to focus on. Yep. And even in class, I was behind, struggling, and, they'll help me, okay, when it's study time, come sit on my session, and they would focus, just being a little away from my own surroundings helped me even study more. Same thing with living day-to-day activity. Everything was structured. And if you miss one thing during that day, you're pretty much behind for the rest of the day. So the best way not to get in trouble is like staying on top of your daily activities. Absolutely. How does that translate? What you said is very powerful with, if you're kind of late or you go too long on one thing, then it really affects the rest of your day. We talk about that so much in our business about what are the highest priorities in your life in order to grow your business. And we always talk about double-digit referrals and personally recruiting and structure your day and your life around that. What are you doing now to make sure that you're hitting your referral sits every single week, that you're personally recruiting and your agency's personally recruiting? How are you structuring your day, and your life around those two things? It's pretty much, again, I would say it all goes back to David and Dustin. When I first heard personal recruiting referrals, it's pretty much, this is what we need to do. Yeah. So understanding what we need to do is great. Yeah. But when you know why we do what we do, it changes everything. Yeah. And for me, why I have to do personal referral, I have to do referral is pretty much for those families. Yeah. So it's not helping, a platinum role, doing more for others than for yourself. Absolutely. So if I made that a priority, like I do have to do this, I do have to see these families. Mm-hmm. This is why I'm doing what I do. Yep. So it's not even about the how, but just knowing the why you're doing it. And then personal recruiting is pretty much, again, taking myself out of it. If I come across, it doesn't matter where I am. If I'm in a bank or at a store or a table, I can see the frustration off of the server serving. Yeah. I know, like, man, I've even people I played with, I'm like, I've been there, I've had those long showers. I know exactly what it is, but like, this is what I'm doing now. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. Absolutely. What has changed in your business did you have that aha moment of, holy cow, referrals?
this is what I need to be doing.
Yes, like from day one, they've been saying it, but it's like like a commercial.
Yeah.
When you hear it, it doesn't really.
It's in the background,
it's in the
right?
background, But then when you actually understand, like the bigger picture, like referral, it's our platinum rule. Like I said, it's just doing more for others. So if I go see your family, the way I can do more for that family is by protecting their whole family.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much doing more for them and their families than I'm actually doing for myself.
Yeah. And obviously you get a reward from it, but it's such a valuable point because so often we sit down with families in that middle income, blue collar, just hardworking families, but we're talking about protecting them and their immediate family, right? But what they don't think about is, man, my brother passed away today. I'm probably the person that's responsible for that would be left with that burden.
Yes.
What way? How do I get affected by that? Right. But yeah, exactly. So like you said, when you go help their whole family, the good that does come from that. And the impact that you're now able to have is, it's so far beyond just that immediate family.
Yes.
Because so often with families not planning for the funeral and final expense, you're going to be left with that.
Yeah. I mean, there are going to have to be the one pitching in. And I always tell them, when I ask them, have you been to a funeral or planned for one before?
Yeah.
At the end I say, wouldn't it be amazing if that person would have had this? And they all agree. Most people have had either their grandparents or their family or somebody pass away.
Yeah.
And they have attended that funeral.
Yeah.
And knowing how, tough it was and, how of a financial burden it was, not just on them, but, for the whole family.
Yeah.
So once you point that out to them, they always see, yes, like this is even beyond them, but they're for their whole family.
Yes, help me, but please go help the rest of my family as well. Exactly. So, Kingsley, talk to us about your goals. Talk to us about where you're going, your agency. Do you want to take on territory?
Yes.
Okay. What territory do you want to take on?
I've kind of, for some reason, I don't even know why I'm not a huge fan of it, but California just been slowly residing in my head.
Okay.
But I was, initially I just wanted to take over the west side of actually Arizona.
Okay. So are we talking like the West Valley, Goodyear, Peoria,
Yes,
all that?
Goodyear,
or are we
Peoria.
talking about Yuma and beyond?
Actually, I mean, why settle for less?
There you go. Okay. So with that being said, California, now what would be, because you've got an organization growing as well. Do you want to be a partner? Do you want to be a vice president of sales? What are some of the other goals that you have?
Main goal be vice president of sales and definitely a partner.
Okay. And I know you've talked to Dustin about how. So what's the next big thing because now the agency is going to know who Kingsley Ibeh is, right? Not that they haven't already. They see his name, but now they're going to know the person behind it, right? But what's the rest of 2019 look like for Kingsley, and what can the agency really know about what's Kingsley going after for 2019?
So for 2019, my major goal is that I want to make sure that at least my top 5 have their starting 5s.
Okay.
And that's major why I'm trying to push, for them just to at least get their starting 5s going.
Yeah.
And then grow. And then also, personally, I want to definitely be top 10.
Okay. So is top 10 a goal for you?
Yes.
Okay. So he just put it out there. So that how Dustin's a big proponent of put it out there and speak it into existence, right? Because it will happen once you just acknowledge it and claim it, right? So with that being said, top 10 VP of sales partner, with your story, Kingsley, I don't think anybody's going to doubt you with what you've done and you've really put in place already. But as we wrap up and we kind of close this out for everyone, what are some very important things that you've learned and taken away just life and in business and overcoming so much? What are some big keys that you've lived by that the audience can definitely learn from today?
Personally, I'd say the biggest one for me is appreciation.
Okay.
Being thankful, especially grateful.
Yeah.
A lot of huge things that I've learned. The most important thing actually is, like I said, whatever you're not grateful for, you lose. And some good things I've lost because I wasn't necessarily grateful for them. Not that I wasn't happy for it, but I just wasn't grateful enough for them. But just being grateful, the opportunity is unlimited.
Yeah.
I mean, the only down to the bodies that I should have started this soon. I should have started earlier, but it's never too late.
Yeah.
And again, just doing more for people. Just wanting to help anyone that could possibly use the help.
Yeah. Well, and so I of course was taking notes through this, and there's just so much about you that's just so impressive that just jumps off the page. We didn't even touch on it, but you speak 5 or 6 languages, right? And then studying chemical engineering, stumbling literally upon football. You went out for a soccer tryout, and then all of a sudden ended up playing in the NFL and professionally, which is professional football. Let me just clarify. So that just in itself it speaks to you and your work ethic and who you are. But I think perseverance just jumps off the page from you, Kingsley, because I can't imagine being 11 years old and going away, right? And in America, because that isn't the norm, to think about an 11-year-old kid just figuring life out, right? Obviously there's people around and there's structure, and you weren't just wandering the streets, right? But it's just you had to grow up quickly. You had to learn how to provide it and figure it out for yourself, right? There wasn't necessarily anyone that was going to do it for you. Yeah. And then there's always just a driving, motivating factor for you that there's something more, right? And it's all in timing, right? You say you wish you would have found it earlier, but I always said it this way. In 2012, you couldn't have told me anything about American Income because I was chasing my dream, right? I was chasing my dream, and so timing is so important for you that now you see it, but now you've got the work ethic and everything behind it to where now it's when you can mix skill with good timing, it becomes dangerous, and it's exciting for us to be able to watch and see. But your gratitude and your appreciation is something I think that everybody can learn from, because you come from a place that is just different from what we're used to as Americans growing up. And so you can see you carry yourself in a different manner, that you're grateful, that your appreciation is truly there. And so that was really what stood out about this for me today. And so we just want to say thank you for all of leadership and the agency for sharing your story today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
Learning, growing, being disciplined, especially Dustin. I mean, if anything I pick up from him, especially, is just expect the challenges. It's just like, if anything, my life has actually taught me is that nothing I've actually planned out worked out as I planned. Worked out like I planned them. Yeah. So it's like, why not plan for those obstacles? Like, expect not to get that, expect not to achieve that goal, and prepare for that obstacle. So when it comes, you're like, okay, this was like, I didn't expect it to be all rain and sunshine. So
absolutely. Well, thank you, sir, for being on the podcast today.
Thank you guys for having me.
Let's go out and make this our best week ever. We're going to have the special recognition for the win week as an agency, but keep going out and doing everything that you're doing, because we're on our way to 100 million, and we know Kingsley is going to be a big part of that. So we look forward to seeing you soon. Let's have our best week ever.